Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the Family Access Chat tonight. I am here on campus, and it is one of those rare and beautiful days that spring has given us in 2022 so far. So it's been amazing to see all of your students and so many people just flooding outside to enjoy themselves before it all goes away again tomorrow. So I am Beth Szczerowski, and I am the Director of Alumni and Family Engagement here at Hope College. I've worked with this team for the last 12 years, and I also am an alum. I graduated from Hope in 2000, and I teach a first-year seminar and do academic advising, as well as strengths coaching with the Gallup Strengths that we use here at Hope's campus. So I like to say that I'm one of the only people on campus who actually gets to work with alumni, families, and students. And I love that well-rounded perspective and getting to interact with all of the different audiences, including families and students who we'll be talking about tonight. So let me explain to you how this event is going to work. We are going to start with each of our panelists taking a few minutes to introduce themselves and their role here at Hope and how they interact with your students, as well as sharing some advice of ways that you can encourage them to utilize the services and resources that Hope has here for them to layer on top of their academics and make their time here more full and rich, as well as have them answer a few questions that I have prepared for each of them. Throughout the time that we are sharing all of this information, we encourage you to submit your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. We have someone working behind the scenes to keep those organized, so feel free to submit them as they come to you. You don't have to wait until the end of the event, and that's when we'll be addressing them. So after we work through the content we have planned to share with you this evening, then we will go ahead and work through the questions that you have. So as you think of them, submit them at the bottom and we'll keep them organized and be ready to address them. So tonight we're really focusing on the work of two teams on campus. The topic is major and career discernment. So asking those big questions, what do I want to do and how do I get there? And the teams that are joining us on the chat tonight are the advising team and members of the Boerigter Center for Calling and Career. So the advising team definitely deals more with the major discernment. Advising plays a role in your students' career, their journey here, all 4 years that they're on campus. So they start out having their FYS instructor as their advisor, and then once they declare their major, they're assigned someone from that department. Students declare majors at all different points in their Hope journey. They can't declare their major the first semester that they're here, but lots of students go ahead and jump right in their second semester, and others wait until basically their junior year to decide. And it's also something that changes a lot as well. So once a major is declared, it doesn't mean it's stuck forever. Then the Boerigter Center, while they also do exploratory advising and work with students to try to figure out what they want to major in and what they want to do, they add in that layer of career preparation, which Shonn and Shannon will be sharing with us tonight as well. So we are joined tonight by 3 wonderful leaders on campus. You will certainly find out here in a moment that we love long job titles here at Hope. So we'll be hearing from Shonn Colbrunn, the Executive Director of the Boerigter Center for Calling and Career, Shannon Scanz, the Assistant Director of Applied Learning, and Alyssa Boss, the Associate Registrar and Associate Director of Advising. I did have to cheat to the side here a minute because we just love some long titles here. So we're going to have each of them take a few minutes to share, again, what they do here at Hope, how their role interacts with students, and some ideas and tips of things that you could maybe suggest that your students take advantage of while they're on campus. And we'll have Shonn kick things off.
All right. Hey, everybody. And thanks, Beth, for the intro. I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight. And hopefully this is going to be a chance to share some information, but and answer some questions too, because that's one of the things that's important to us. So I've been at Hope College for almost 4 years now. And prior to coming to Hope, I worked in the human resources field for about 25 years. It's been fun coming back to Hope because it's also my alma mater. I graduated from here a long time ago, 1994. But actually what that means is I check a lot of boxes because I also have kids who are students at Hope. So Hope alum, Hope employee, Hope parent. And so I think I got a lot going right here. So this is, I'm looking forward to tonight. The things that we're going to get into is a lot around major and career discernment. And so we'll talk about those things. We'll also talk about some of the other things that go on with the Boerigter Center for Calling and Career. Specifically, we do a lot with students around some of the basics of preparation, meaning resumes, cover letters, online profiles, interviewing. How do you do these? How do you do those things well? We talk to students about grad school decisions and grad school applications and how can they prepare for that future. We have a staff member that focuses specifically on students that want to go into medical careers, make sure they get the best possible advice and advising as well. And then there are things that we're working with students on throughout the time as they're getting into that step of pursuit and looking forward to their next step. So that would involve helping students with job search strategies, providing opportunities for students to network and get to know people out in their industry, get to know alumni. One of the cool things that's actually happening as we speak is a student and alumni networking event right now in Washington, D.C. with our cohort of students that are there on the Washington Honors Semester Program and alumni from the Washington, D.C. area. I'm sure they're getting together and having a great time. Some of our colleagues are there. We didn't get to go, but it's going to be a great night for them. And what I really love about that is that this is a great event to not just network online, but actually in person. And we're back to an in-person world now, which I'm so excited about. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other things that we do around certifications and helping students just get ready. Behind the scenes, we're doing a lot with planning events and then helping students also get connections with some of the top employers that we have relationships with. So, all right, that's my quick intro.
Perfect. Thank you, Shonn. And as we move on to Shannon, just want to remind our guests and anyone who may be logged in a little bit late that you can submit your questions for the end of the event using the Q&A function. So tell us about you, Shannon.
Well, thank you so much, everyone who's joined us and everyone who will watch later. It really is my pleasure to be here. My name is Shannon Scanz. I work with Shonn in the Boerigter Center. And I think sometimes when people initially hear, Boerigter Center for Calling and Career, it's easy to pigeonhole maybe like, oh, a career center. And so we know that you're going to help our kids with resume, and maybe we know you're going to help them prep for interviews and things like that. And we certainly do. But what's so fun about this work and the work that we get to do with the students at Hope is that it's so much bigger and broader than that. And the kind of work that I do sits a little bit outside of some of those more readily thought of things. I work, if you can imagine this, the work we do in Boerigter, everything essentially fits in one of three buckets. And Shonn kind of hinted at those buckets a little bit. And it's discerning, preparing, and pursuing what might be your student's next best step. And my work really leans into the discernment part. And again, oftentimes people say, oh, my kid's already got a major. They've already discerned what they're doing next. But what's so exciting is discernment, as we know, it continues forever. It is the work of kind of continuing to discover, who am I and what might I do with that information? So that piece is kind of delivered throughout a lot of different arenas on campus, whether it's meeting with students. I also work with faculty to help build career and calling readiness curriculum to make sure that that curriculum doesn't just land in the Boerigter Center, but it's everywhere. And that's a really wonderful thing about our work. On top of that, I get to teach some classes that specify some of these areas that we know students struggle with sometimes, whether or not, again, they have declared a major or not, even when maybe you've decided I'm going to be pre-health. Well, you don't graduate and then become pre-health. You have to become something. And so part of that work, even in the middle and toward the end, around discernment has to do with where might not just be a job, but how can we help you understand where your job is? So it's a great experience for me. I think I'm in my 8th year. I was thinking that's bananas, but in my 8th year at Hope, I come to Hope with 22 years of experience. And so I remember when I first started in higher ed, I clearly related much more to the students and their age. And now I have a 17-year-old daughter myself, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the parent kind of heart at this point. So I really am looking forward to answering questions that you might have about how we can serve your students.
I'll wrap up our intros. My name is Alyssa Boss. I'll repeat my long title, Associate Registrar and Associate Director of Advising. I work out of the Registrar's office and the advising office, so I get to kind of live in two worlds. I help oversee our freshman registration and get them set up for their first semester, and then I help with their transition with their class scheduling by going into first year seminars and talking about our curriculum and tools that students have to get ready for future registrations. And then I also work with those first year seminar instructors and other advisors about those same topics, teaching them the curriculum and advising tools to help equip our advisors on how to serve students. So out of the advising office, we are really there to help support other advisors to best serve and advise your students. And then in addition to that work, I myself teach first year seminar. So I get to work with my own students and advise my own students, and I really enjoy that work. And that always comes with a lot of major and career discernment as students are in their first semester making all those decisions. And then I'm also part of our care team that we have on campus, which is a interdisciplinary group of people across a lot of different offices that are there to help support the safety and well-being of students. So I'm excited as well to answer everyone's questions about advising and major discernment there.
Fantastic. Thank you for all that great information. I have some questions for all of you. As the host, hopefully I will ask the ones that I told you I was going to, but maybe I'll have some surprise ones for you to be ready for. So I know you guys can handle it. My first question is for Shannon. Shannon, what is a service that the Boerigter Center provides that you wish all students would utilize?
Okay, I know we got these questions in advance, and this one I really struggled with, and I thought about it so much because for me, it's like picking a favorite child. You know, I really believe of the services that we offer, it probably depends on the year or the experiences that your student is having. Certainly, there are things that we ask students to do in their first year that are kind of foundation level, and then we move them to sophomore and so on. But if you make me pick, Beth, I think my heart for student experiential learning is incredibly present. I feel like what we can offer in terms of information, contacts, even coursework around what that feels like for a student to experience something outside of Hope's campus. So we have students who are in majors who maybe require experiential learning, which would include maybe an internship or clinical hours or even volunteerism sometimes. And sometimes students might feel like, I have no idea how to make this happen for myself. How am I going to find a place to go and do these things? Or how can I make it meaningful to me? And the appointments that we have through our office that support students in locating opportunities for themselves, really, I think we kind of are able to hone in on what is going to benefit your student the most. What are they trying to learn and gain from whatever experience they're pursuing off campus? And how can we make sure that they can attain those goals for themselves? So I highly, highly recommend experiential learning. Again, whether it's internship or study abroad or study domestically within the United States, there are so many incredible transformations that can happen when a student takes what they've learned inside the classroom and then they're able to kind of apply it outside in the real world and have the opportunity to then reflect on it. Like, I loved that. Or even sometimes, I hated that. What am I going to do? Right? We are the ones who can be there with them and for them to help make sure that they're feeling supported, they're feeling ready, and they know how to kind of unpack the experience that they've had. So that's my favorite child.
That's a fantastic answer. And I love how you kind of shared the scale of that, right? So if you're an athlete or an international student or someone who isn't interested in being gone for an entire semester or isn't interested in studying abroad, everything from summertime internships to semesters domestically to May terms in Vienna. There's lots of opportunities can be scaled to fit in with your Hope experience. I did the Chicago semester my junior year at Hope. I'm from Holland and I went to Hope and I live in Holland. So for me, going to Chicago was a way to leave the bubble that I thought I never wanted to be outside of. And I also did an internship there that I didn't like. So I learned about an entire industry that I didn't want to be a part of. And that experience was really valuable and safe, and it had an end, right? So it was something that Hope could help me learn a lot through. So that is a great answer. Well done. Thank you. Our next question is for Alyssa. Alyssa, what is something that parents could suggest their students take advantage of on campus for greater success?
So many things. It's a good question.
Feel free to say a few things.
I will. I think as parents, you can really be the encourager that reminds students of all of the resources they have on campus. In addition to some of the ones Shannon mentioned that Boerigter does, there are so many that can help your students with major and career discernment and resumes and job shadowing and everything there. But there's so many other offices that are dedicated to supporting students in and outside the classroom. Academic Success Center offers tutoring and academic coaching and help sessions. And our counseling and psychological services offers free counseling for students and some group sessions as well. And really pairing those with all the support that instructors give in the classroom, I think helps set students up to be successful. And then I would just encourage students to take advantage of some of all the other opportunities that are happening on campus. There's so many clubs and groups that they can get involved in that provide some direct leadership experience and can also help them discern some interests and meet other people. There's something for everyone. There are so many to get involved in, but taking that first step, I think, to check different clubs out can require some encouragement. And then I think students should just be encouraged to talk to people. Their professors, their advisors, they want to get to know them. They want to be there to help them. The staff on campus, they're all there to support students. And so encouraging your student to get to know those people, go to office hours, go to their advising meetings, start building those relationships can be really important and can help provide students with some mentors that can guide them throughout their time at Hope and can be those people that ask them questions to help them discern what their interests are, remind them about different opportunities that they have to really enhance their Hope experience. So just taking the time to have those conversations, I think, is really key as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Whenever I'm meeting with my students about all those resources you mentioned in the beginning, the writing center, tutors, CAPS, I always remind them that you're paying for it, whether you use it or not, right? It's all part of your package, just like going to class. And so it's there for every Hope student. And there truly is something for everyone. And when I think back to why I didn't use certain resources, in particular, what was then called the Career Development Center, it was fear and insecurity, right? I thought I was going to look stupid or feel dumb, or my questions like would seem so juvenile. And if my parents had been encouraging me, or if they had said, talk to your advisor and your advisor will, make you feel better about that, or go with you or help you make the appointment. I'll sit with students and handshake, making appointments to set up time with Boerigter Center counselors all the time. And I say, I love her. Shannon's amazing. Yoli's awesome. Like, they just need someone to add in that layer of positivity, and parents play a huge role in that as well. So thank you, Alyssa. Shonn, it's your turn for the spotlight. Can you please share with us what job market trends you are seeing for college graduates right now?
Yeah, the past few years have just been really interesting. We started out in 2019 with a really strong job market, and 2020 came, and the uncertainty just flattened out the opportunities. And then 2021 came, and things were growing back. And now I'm happy to say we're in really good shape for our current college students. You may have heard of the phrase "the Great Resignation." So over the past 10 to 12 months, just a big shuffle in the job market, in the labor market. A bunch of workers quit their jobs, and so to some record high levels over the past summer and the fall. The good news is that's super great for our grads. That means there's a lot of churn and a lot of openings that are just going to make the opportunities available for our new grads, just in a really positive way. I just looked at some numbers from the class of 2021. We always ask our graduating classes 6 months after graduation, what are you doing? Are you working? Are you in grad school? Are you still looking? And what we learned from that most recent class is that only 2.3% of our grads were still looking for something 6 months after graduation. So that's really, over 97% of our students are happily in grad school or working. So that's just a great sign. And as it's confirmed, as I look at the number of job postings that are currently out there in Handshake, which is our job posting board that we use with students, it's the month of March had the highest number of postings for jobs and internships than we've ever seen. So it's really good news. I do have to say though, jobs just don't magically land in your lap. I think for students, we're talking to them all the time. You got to do the work, you got to research, you got to apply, you got to network, you got to make those connections. But in general, it's pretty favorable right now.
Awesome. Great news. Always good to have the answers be good news. Alyssa, we're going to bounce back to you on the topic of majors. And before you answer the question, I was hoping you could also maybe share just a little context about majors at Hope, kind of how many we have, and then share if there's like an ideal time for a student to declare their major, if it's ever too late to change it, kind of walk us through that journey.
Sure. So just kind of to give some context of declaring a major, that involves a process of filling out a form that students submit to the department. The department assigns them an advisor within that department, and then that major gets added to a student's record. Like Beth mentioned earlier, we don't allow students to do that in the first semester. We want them to really just focus on the transition to college, settle into classes. And for most students, the idea that they have coming into college of what they want to do, they usually change their mind once they maybe start taking classes in that area or hear about different options. Because sometimes in high school, we're so limited on hearing about the types of jobs that exist. And once we find out more about that, we change our minds. So we want students to have a semester where they can just focus on the transition to college. And then starting in that second semester, they're allowed to declare. But you asked about the number of majors we had, and I'm embarrassed to say that I actually don't know the number. Maybe you do. There's a lot. They're all in the college catalog. Students can review them all there. And they actually have a tool called DegreeWorks where they monitor their progress towards completion. And in that tool, they're able to see all of the requirements for every major and minor Hope has. So there's lots of resources for that as well. I wouldn't say there's an ideal time to declare a major for a student. I would say most students probably declare sometime their sophomore year. And I usually encourage students that once they're probably 50% sure or more, to take the step to declare their major if they're able. Some departments do require an application process like nursing or teaching or social work, that maybe they have some other requirements to meet before they can do that. But for most majors, it's as simple as filling out that form. And so the benefit of them doing that once they're half sure or more, is then they're assigned an advisor within that department, and they can get some more specific advising from someone in that field who can kind of guide them on the sequencing of their courses and start talking to them about careers with that major. And then they can declare their major up until they've earned 75 credits and are looking to register for the next semester. So typically for most students, that's sometime their junior year. By then we would want them to declare something, but after that, you can always change your mind. Keep in mind though, that some majors, if you do change your mind, say senior year, there's some sequencing with some courses. And so depending on what a student switches to, that could end up delaying their degree completion. But for most students, by the time that they change their mind, you still usually time to finish everything on time. I would encourage students from the beginning though, if they're feeling a lot of pressure to know what they want to major in, to really know that they do have time. And I would encourage them to take the time to just take classes in that field. If you're interested in that major, try it out. And that way you've given it a chance and you just can see if you like those classes. And if you don't, then great, you can move on to something else, but at least you know. Sometimes students think they shouldn't take classes in an area until they're very sure they want to be in that major. But by not taking the classes, they don't have a chance to see if that's something that's for them. So I encourage them to take the time to really discern, to meet with people in that department, work with Boerigter, to see if that is a major that's of interest of them, and try out those classes. But yeah, once they're probably 50% sure or more, go ahead and declare so you have someone assigned to you in that department that can help you. And then if they want to change their mind, that's totally okay as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, whenever I have a student who truly has no idea what they want to study or do after college, I tell them, awesome. This is a great place to be, right? You're in a liberal arts scenario, specifically at Hope. There's less identity crisis there than someone who is going to be a doctor, takes one chem class. Nope. That's also a valuable lesson and a great journey, but I love working with students who have no idea. So if you have a child that has no idea, please, reassure them that that's very normal and actually a great adventure to be on. And also, as someone who was an accounting major, then a business major, then a comm major, I can tell you, I didn't even find my major until my junior year, and I still managed to go off campus and graduate in 4 years. So Hope is a good place to be to work with that puzzle as well. So thank you for that, Alyssa. Shonn, I've got another question for you. Connected to parents, more specifically, is there anything that parents can do to get involved in and support all Hope students on their career journey?
Yeah, I'll share a couple of things, two things really. So the first thing I would say for parents is to give your own students a nudge. And this is something, your own son or daughter, to kind of get going on some of the things that are important for their future. So I think, for example, hey, have you put together a resume? What are you doing in terms of applying for internships or what, depending on the field they want to go into? I think these things are important, and a lot of organizations are recruiting very early for internships and jobs, really early in the school year. So that's something that I think it just may not be intuitive to students. Some of the students may have never thought about resumes before. So I think if there's those nudges that you could do, and then always reminding them that our office has resources. We have some videos, we have some tips, some guide sheets to do all these things, or we of course talk to one of our staff. We're here exactly for that. One thing in particular that you can nudge your student on right now is to apply for the Summer Career Accelerator. And this is a program that we're launching in May. And it's basically a self-paced, it will be all virtual, but it'll be a program that helps students get ready for the following fall. We're going to make sure their resumes are awesome. We're going to make sure they've got some career tracks in mind. We're going to poke them to research some companies that would be hiring in their field. So we're going to force them to reach out and network with some alumni. In addition, a part of this program is going to be earning a micro credential, or basically a small certification where we have Tableau, which is data analytics and visualization. That's one of the options. Salesforce is another option, and intercultural fluency. You can earn a badge in that. So we've got some activities that'll fit within a summer's schedule for our students, whether they have a job. This goes with the job, or it goes with if they're doing studies or on-campus research, they can do this too. So Summer Career Accelerator, tell your student to find our information on that on Instagram. We have an Instagram page, and so they can find us there. So that's the first thing, nudge your student. And the second thing I would say is offer your expertise up to other students. So not just your own. So you think about this. So I went into human resources when I was graduated from Hope. Neither of my parents knew anything about human resources, but I bet there were a whole bunch of other parents of Hope students that knew about that if I would have talked to them, I probably could have gotten some great counsel and great advice and just realistic expectations of what that career track is like. So it's probably the same for your students, and maybe your son or daughter isn't going into something that your profession is, or something you may not know a lot about. But so wouldn't you want them to be able to have other parents that they could reach out to? And so likewise, I would love for you to be a resource to all Hope students and share your stories, share your expertise, share your journey. And we've got a great system for doing that. It's called the Hope College Connection. It's connection.hope.edu, and we'll have a link. Awesome. We got our Instagram posted there, and you'll see our link here to the Hope Connection here as well soon. But this is, if you will, it's kind of a private LinkedIn network just for Hope students, alumni, and families. So we actually we check before we let people into this network, and it's just a great resource for students to reach out to friendly people and get some advice. And so I would love for you to be a part of that. Sign up. You can actually import your LinkedIn profile if you've got a LinkedIn profile, or just put in a little bit about your background and your experience. And it's a great way for students to then reach out to you and learn more. So those would be the two things I'd say about how can parents get involved.
Fantastic, thank you. So Shannon, I touched on the way I respond when a student comes and stressfully shares that they have no idea what they want to do. But there are actually things that we can do to support that and help them get to the place, because the goal is to figure out what you want to do, right? So what advice would you give a student who can't seem to decide what they want to study and what they study to guide them to after college?
Yeah, it is really normal. And so I hope that we can, one, just work to normalize that situation in general. I think one of the things that I say, because students will come and they'll say, everybody knows what they're doing except me, and I must be the world's biggest failure. And it's just the furthest thing from the truth. Being undecided is an action in and of itself, as long as you're taking the steps to kind of figure out what might be your next best step. On top of classes that we offer through the Boerigter Center, one of them is called the Second Seminar, which is a class that helps students understand identity development and career preparation. And it essentially helps students figure out, again, who am I and what might I do with that information in the world, whether that be working or as a community member, a family member. We have tangible things that students can and should take advantage of in the classroom, but we also have I think we place so much importance on relationships with students, which is why our appointments, I hope, feel like conversations and real advocacy for the students who come to us to share, I'm undecided, I don't know what to do next. And then let us help you kind of discover, is your situation such that maybe you need to go talk with faculty? Is it Maybe that you need to do discover work where you go and job shadow someone. Is it that you need to talk with colleagues? There are so many different options that can be individualized for students when they simply kind of let their guard down, normalize being undecided, and then take action to kind of work their way through that. One of the things that I always tell students, Beth, I love it when students are undecided. Sometimes I teach a first year seminar as well. We go around and I always say, like, what are you thinking? What are you interested in? What might you like to study? And some people are like, I know exactly what I'm studying, and they give their answers, and those are great. And other students kind of sheepishly will say, like, I don't have any idea. And I have been known to clap, like, yay, because that is such an exciting place for students to be. Yeah. And it might even be the most honest place where students can be. And when a student is talking to me with those kinds of questions, I say, try stuff. You got to try stuff. Trying stuff might look like some of those options I talked about earlier. Maybe it is going to talk to the faculty in the department. Maybe it is doing a job shadow. Maybe it is taking a class within that department. But that kind of applied learning, the learning that happens when you're engaging in the process is really, students sometimes don't know that your gut tells you a lot about what you are interested in, what you are naturally inclined toward, what opportunities might be there for you. And so to give them permission to try stuff and then pause and think about, did you like it? Did you not? And it's okay to do stuff that you like, and sometimes students are so kind of one track about those kinds of things. So among all of those kind of personalized things that we can offer to students based on their specific situations, that is my go-to. What have you tried? How can we get you trying stuff? How can we help you understand the calculated risks that are involved with trying stuff? And with that, I think sometimes we see students just physically, I'm going to be okay, and the truth is they are going to be okay.
Thank you for that. And I agree. So we have two questions that are submitted that are very similar. And I am guessing they are going to be directed at Shonn. So Shonn, I'll read them both and then kind of summarize what I'm hearing there. So the first question was, what are the opportunities for learning about careers like job shadowing in order for a student to discern what major to choose? He is currently a freshman. And then another parent asked, my daughter is a freshman. When should she start looking for an internship? So we're kind of talking about those, the shadowing, the internships, the experiences, specifically to freshmen in these two questions. So I'm hoping you could address that.
First, I will unmute. Now I will talk. And so what I'll say is, I think there's for the question around how do you get a sense for what you might want to do or get a sense of that as a freshman. So yes, we do have job shadowing. It's a formal job shadowing program. Shannon mentioned it. It's called Discover Work, and I think we've got a link in the chat. That program is it's an organized one where we have students register for that and alumni register for that, and then we do some deliberate matching, and students they literally go and spend a day or two with that alum wherever they're at, seeing what it's like to walk in the shoes of that career field. That program for this year is already going. It's too late for this year to get in on that. But so I would say if your son or daughter is a freshman, to get in on that for next year, that's great. But it is never too late for a freshman to get into the Hope College Connection and just find someone who's in that system. That was the one I mentioned a minute ago, the private LinkedIn network. Just to get in and find an alum who's working in a field that they're curious about. And then it's so easy to just send a message right there and say, hey, would there be a chance that you would be willing to spend a half an hour on the phone or a video chat and just tell me a little bit about your career and your path. And so that's something that we are encouraging students to do that all the time. because that's such a great way. And there's no limit. There's no time. There's no reason that students can't just do that anytime now over the summer. So that's one thing. So the second question was around students, specifically freshmen, applying for internships.
Yeah, when is the right time in their 4 years here to plan for that?
Yep, that's a question that I would say for students that are where internships make sense. So there's some professions like education. If you're going to be a teacher, you're going to do all kinds of student placements in classrooms throughout your time, and then you're going to do student teaching. So internships don't necessarily apply for education majors or nurses, but if you're going into many other fields, which I would say most of the fields that you can major in at Hope, an internship is a great thing to do. Now, if I work backwards a little bit and I think about the summertime, the summer after junior year, that's a must do. Might make sure you've got an internship for that summer. If you can also do one the summer after sophomore year, even better. That's great. 2 internships are fantastic. The summer after freshman year, if you can do one then as well, that's amazing. But I actually want to kind of lower the expectations a little bit. There's a lot of companies that will say, we only hire juniors, right? They won't even look at you if you've just been through 1 year of school. And a lot of it is they want you to have built up some expertise in your field of study before they feel that you can contribute. So if you have a freshman, if they can find an internship and they get hired, by all means, embrace it, do it, but don't put a lot of pressure on them that they have to find an internship after freshman year. There will be a couple other opportunities to do that. And then I think one of the things, Beth, you mentioned it, but it's kind of a pretty sweet opportunity. We have a number of semester domestic off-campus semester programs where students will go to another city for a semester and it'll basically take 1 or 2 classes and then work for basically 32 hours a week. It is an internship. So we do that in Washington, DC, Chicago, Philadelphia, Denver, New York. And it's a really great way to get experience and live in a different city at the same time. So I would recommend that.
Can I jump in? You?
Go ahead. Did you want to add something, Shannon?
No, I do.
Good.
Yes, I love the fact that freshmen are already thinking about that experiential learning, just as Shonn does. That's incredible. In terms of that major discernment stuff, if I have a freshman and they don't know what to major in and they don't quite know where to start, I just want to mention too, we have people designated in the Boerigter Center who do appointments specifically around that topic. We use some of the most valid and kind of known tools, assessment tools, to help students really be able to identify and articulate, okay, what are you good at that you might never have even thought about in terms of major or career? And again, we build a language that they begin to be able to talk about that instead of just saying, oh, I'm good at math, which is great. Let's expand that. How can you use math in a way that might, you can pursue this as the thing you want to study and as your career? The other tool that we use is really designated to help students understand interests and values, and then directly connects those types of things into different professions. And maybe even the most cool thing is that it then takes those professions and it directs students back to majors at Hope College that they can begin looking at. So it's kind of that, sometimes students say, this was a great conversation, but what should I do next? I always say, do those assessments, find what those results are, and then begin talking to some of those faculty in the department, because now you're armed with, okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm good at, this is what I might be looking for. How do you think I would fit here in this department? Tell me about what that might feel like. So I definitely recommend those major discernment appointments within Boerigter. And the 2 women who do those appointments are the greatest student advocates on campus that I know of. So I know they'll kind of embrace students in that way. Secondly, I'm just going to call attention to the academic advisors that all students have access to. So as a first year student, that is such a great resource for them to just go to and say like, hey, I'm feeling like I still have no idea. Can you suggest something I can do to try and get me moving forward? Academic advisors, that's kind of our job. We get excited and we love to help students figure out, again, what is uniquely going to work for you. And we are as accessible as anyone else in terms of availability and just to know that they have a person that they can go to on a campus that can sometimes feel big and faceless in terms of services, especially to first year students. We are their people. So make sure they know they can be reaching out to their advisor as well.
Awesome, that was lovely. Yes, I love your math example. I had a student 3 years ago who loved math so much and was very good at math. She was a first generation college student. She thought the only thing you could do with math was teach math, and she did not want to be a teacher. And by meeting with the right people and having those conversations, she realized a love of accounting and went on to become a CPA, and just truly thought that she had to do something else because she didn't have any idea what you could do with an interest in a strong like of math if you didn't want to major in math. So that's just one example of thousands. And I also love your advice about reaching out to your advisor. And sometimes when you're a popular advisor, your students don't want to declare their major because they don't want to move on from you. I'm sure that doesn't happen to any of us on this event tonight, but I'd like to remind students, and this is something that you can pass along too, that you're just expanding your village, right? So when a student declares their major and I'm not their advisor anymore, they get to have more people as part of their Hope Village and in their kind of on their mentor map, is what we would call it. And just to remind them that that's why they're here, right? You choose Hope in a small school because people really care. And I don't want my students to move on. I want them to still need me, and getting that advice from different perspectives is just so valuable and a huge asset to students at Hope. So any last minute advice that any of you would want to share for parents or for parents to recommend to students before we finish up for the evening? Everybody said their piece. Well, that was a lot of great information. So thank you, Shonn and Shannon and Alyssa. I'm glad I never accidentally said like Shonn or Shan, or I was all day, I was practicing Shonn, Shannon. Those are kind of hard to say after each other. So I made it through. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I just want to iterate what Shonn said earlier about the Hope College Connection. That is something that parents can join and share their information. Like Shonn said, it's super easy. You can even just loop in all of your information from LinkedIn and to populate your information, and students can reach out to you with questions and ideas about your specific career field and connect with you in that way. We have 3 weeks left before exams, so hopefully I'm sure a lot of you will be seeing your students this weekend for the long Easter holiday. Remind them that they're almost there. I know they're getting tired, and that stretch after spring break can just be really exhausting, but they're almost there. And then they'll get the summer off to have jobs and internships and lots of sleep, and maybe mom helping with laundry for a little while before they come back in the fall. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And we hope to see you online or in person again sometime soon.